Today's topic is based on specialized functions. So we'll just have a look at what are the objectives. So today's module we'll be talking about specialized functions. So specialized functions in Excel is related to the functions that are used to perform some specialized task, let's say to display the date or time, or to display some string functions are there. There are some functions related to financial data handling. So those all functions we will see in this particular module. We'll see some of them, and I would request all of you to go through this slide and take some time to create your own example sheets and then perform these examples or the functions. So let's proceed. In today's module, we will be talking about date and functions, time functions. We'll also talk about some string functions and some financial functions. We'll see how to create a data table. This data table we have already seen while we were working with the sales data, if you remember, and while we were working with the that daily fresh. So there we saw how to create a name and all. So we will again review that, and we will also see a new feature of Excel, that is an advanced feature, that is solver. So how solver works. So these all things we will be learning and we will go through today. So let's start with the date function. So the date function takes parameters as year, month and day. So I'll just show you some of the examples. You can also try them at your own pace and then check how the output looks like. We'll see this date function, how it works, year, month, day. And then we'll also see the use of eDate function. So date function and eDate function. We'll see how to calculate maturity date, let's say. So we'll explain this EO month, time function. These are some of the scenario based functions, and we have already discussed some of these functions in our last classes. So we'll just review. We'll also talk about the text function. Just now we have used this text function in our macro to calculate or to find out the day of the week. So we will revisit this once again. And these are some text functions, and some other string related functions also we will see. And then financial functions. So let's see these functions, how they work. Okay, so we'll just see some of the functions. Let's say we'll just see some of the examples. Let's say you want to put today's date. So today's date, there is a function called today. The moment you give the function today, it gives you today's date. Now this value can be displayed in different format. What I mean to say, right now you can see the value as 12/21/2014. However, the date is actually 21st December 2014. So if you want to format this particular data or format this particular date, you can always go to format cells. You can right click and go to format cells, and there you will see this option of date. Now this date category has got some predefined formats. Now if you want to select a predefined format, that is absolutely fine. Or in case you want to give your own format, please listen to this very carefully. This is a very useful function, and this will be used for so many different purposes wherever date is coming into picture, and date is something that is required day in and day out in Excel. So understand this very carefully. So date is a predefined category in Excel. However, there is something called custom. In custom, there are some options through which you can create your own date format. So right now you can see that the type of this date is MDYYYY. I can change this. So how do I change and what do I change? Before that, understand these scenarios first. DD, DD. If you put DD as type, it will show you the day of the week. So Sunday, Monday, like that. So in a total, in full, like it will say MONDAY, Monday, like this. So if you just want MON instead of Monday, then you should give DDD. If you want the month of the year, then double M. So what will happen? Month will be displayed in number. However, if you want the month to be displayed in form of a name like Jan, Feb, March, so in that case you have to mention it as MMM. YY is for year, that is for 2 digits, and YYYY is for 4 digits. So let's try some of these formats here. Let's say I want to expand this date to the longest form. So I'll say DDDD. See, the moment I say DDDD, see, Sunday has already appeared here. So this means my response was absolutely correct. Then I say comma. The moment I say comma, the example will also say comma. And then I want DD, means the date, hyphen, MM. If I give MM, so it will say 12, the month. If I say MM, it will say DEC, JAN, like this, 3 letters of the month. If I say MMMM, then it will display the entire month, December, January, February, like this. And then if I just give YY, it will be 2 digits of the year. If I want 2014 like this, then it should be YYY or 4Y. So this is the expanded format. So this is how we change the format using format cells. The same thing we will try using a different function. So we say OK. See, the format has changed. Now let's try this once again, but using a function. We say equal to today's date. Now here I want to publish this date in an expanded format. How do we do that? You say equal to text, which value? I want this as the value. And then what do? I give the format, whatever I want. I say DDDD, then comma, DD, hyphen, MMMM, hyphen, YYYY, close. The moment you press enter, see, this and this are same. So this means that you can either format your cells using the format option, format cell option, or you can use a function called text to convert your date in any given format. Not only date, we can try something with the time as well. Let's see how to bring out a particular date or a particular time. For that you use a function called date. Let's say I want to display 10th March 2013. So the function should be like this: date 2013, which is year, then comma month, which is 3, then comma date, which is 10. So 10th of March 2013. So let's try to give the same formula: date, year, let's say 2013, month, which is March, day, which is date. The moment I do so, see, this has changed to a date. Now, how will I make sure that this is a date? You format this and keep it here and see here what happens. It automatically takes the value Sunday 10th of March 2013. So you can always bring current date, or you can also put a date of your choice, a predefined date. You can also write a date. If I just say 23 December 2014, it is absolutely fine. And this also you can give the format as like this. It will say Tuesday 23 December. Now, this is only not applicable with date. This is also applicable with time. So this we have discussed. This will be in the format of, let's say, Sunday. Then this will display it like this: Sunday, sun. This will give the day. This will give the month. This will give the month in letters. This will give the month in expanded format. This will give year in 2 digits. This will give year in 4 digits. After that, we have something called HH, MM, SS. So this is the hour. This is for hour. This is for minute. This is for second. So these are the formats that is available to us whenever we are talking or whenever we are having any formula based on date or time. So this is how we segregate date and time. Next, what we will do, we'll see the other functions. Let's take an example. So we have seen what is a date function. So date function and the time function is also the same. We say, let's say if you want to write 10:30 a.m. let's say. So how will you write? You say time, then start, hour, let's say 10, minute, let's say 30, comma, 30, comma, let's say 15 seconds. So it will say 10:30 a.m. See, 10:30 a.m. This also we can convert into our minutes, seconds as we want. So we can change the format using format cells. We can go to time. We can say like this. So it shows me the hour, minute and second as well as AM and PM. So since we have given it as 10, it was showing 10 AM. If I change this to 15, let's see what happens. It is giving me 3:30 PM. So this, which is absolutely fine. So my date and time functions are working absolutely fine. So for time, we only have these three expanded form, which is hour, minute and second. Now let's see some other useful features of this date function. Now let's take an example. This example is also shared with your slide, so you can always go back and then check that example. But just to explain, I'm just showing some of these functions. So this function, there is a function, let's take an example that we have a plan, any let's say term plan or LIC plan or something like this, or a fixed deposit plan we have taken on 5th of November, and this particular plan is getting matured. So let's say if it is 5 or 10 months, you can always check it, you can always calculate. But if it is, let's say, a big number, then it is not possible to calculate it all the time. So in that case, what you can do, you can click on, you can use the function called eDate and calculate the date. So how it will be? So you say equal to eDate, the start date. The start date is absolutely the initial date, and months. So months I have already written here. The moment I say OK, so automatically it gives me the maturity date. So this is one of the specialized function which can be used to find out a maturity date for a particular value. Similarly, let's say this is 5th of July 2019. I can see that 56 months from 5 November 2014 is 5th July 2019. However, so date and time functions are actually very important, because date and time functions can be used for displaying the date and time in a particular format. So dates have different formats. We have already discussed this. These are the different formats. So I told you that we can always change the format of a cell, or we can use a function also. The function to change the format is text, as we can see here. So the text function takes absolutely the same type of format that we can do through format cells. And for time function, I just mentioned two things. One, that we have limited formatting only for hour, minute and second. And this is how we can put a time. So we can put the current time, as well as we can put a time also. So how do we put a current time? We can put the current time as by saying equal to now. Equal to now, what it will do? It will display the current date and current time. So current time is also here. Now, if we want a particular time, then in that case, what happens is that you can introduce a function called time. The time function takes three parameters: hour, minute and second. So hour, if you give a time, a value less than 12, then it will take it as a AM. However, if you give something greater than 12, like this, it will take it like this. So it will change it to PM. So this is the utility of time function. So date and time functions, this is what we discussed. Now this was a specialized date function that we were discussing here to calculate the maturity of a particular plan. Let's say maybe a LIC plan, or maybe a fixed deposit plan. So let's take an example that you have initiated, you have purchased a plan on a particular date, and you want to find out when is your plan maturing. So in that case, you can find out this particular date using a function called eDate. So we were discussing, like, if it is a small date, let's say 8 months, then we can also calculate it by hand, like, okay, 8 months after November. But if it is a big date, like 73 months, then calculating this maturity date will be a bit difficult. So in that case, this eDate function comes into picture. So you say equal to eDate, open bracket. The eDate function takes two parameters. One, the start date, and another, the months, the number of months. You close the bracket, press enter, it gives me the date. Now this date, again, we can actually change the format. So how do we change the format? We can do the same thing. See here, we can either go to right click and format and change the format as we want. Otherwise, we can also take help of our text function. See how we can put one function within another. We can say text, and this becomes my value, this becomes my date, and then we say comma. I want to change the format of this maturity date. It should show me the day also. So I want day, Sunday, Saturday or Monday, whatever it is. Then I want to see the date, month and year. Let's say like this format. The moment I do so, see what happens. This 5th December 2020 has been converted to Saturday 5th December 2020 like this. Even more, if I want to say it as December, so I will give 4 M's and it will say like this. So this is one of the examples of how to calculate the maturity date. Now this particular date you are calculating here for a particular given date. You can also calculate the last day of that month. So let's say December, or in our case this is December. Let's say if this is 75 months, then this will be February. Now I'm not sure whether February of 2021 will have 29 days or 28 days. So in that case, the next function can help me. So the next function, EO month, means end of month. This EO month, end of month, actually helps me to find out the last day of the month, of a given month. So in my case, let's say I want to check February 2021, what will be the last date, whether it is 28 or 29, I don't know. So how do we calculate that? We can say equal to EO month, and then this is my date, let's say. I close it and I say, okay, so this should be a date, EO month. It has to take a date and it has to take the month, how many months. So this will also return me February, but it will return me a value which can be converted into a format. So I can say, I believe that this particular date function, maturity date, how to calculate it is clear. And this one is supposed to give me the end of the month for that particular maturity month. However, when I give this value or introduce this function, it is showing me a number 44,255, and I just can't understand what is this 44,255. So understand that in Excel the dates are in the form of values. So it started from 1900, so till date it is, let's say, 44,000 days. So this is why it is coming as a value. Now this particular value can always be changed to a format or a date. So there are different ways of doing that. We can either right click and go to format cells, or what we can do, we already have a formatted date here. We can take the format painter after clicking this and then just click on the cell. The moment I do so, automatically it takes the format. So now see the difference of E-date and EO month. E-date gives me that particular date, whereas EO month is actually the end of the month. So I now know that February, for February 2021, the last day would be 28. So 28 is the last day, end of the month. So that is what the concept of formatting and end of month. So these are the date functions that we use, the specialized functions, the date functions that we use in Excel. So macro we can record macro, and we can always play it whenever we want. So that is one thing that we can do. And we were talking about one more topic came during our discussion. That topic was related to Lookup. So I just like to give you a short introduction about the Lookup part. So let's take an example. If you have a small table, so a small table which has got some, let's say, list of fruits and 3 months, the sales figures are for 3 months. I've just made a sample table kind of thing. So if I want to find out the sales that was made in February for the fruit pineapple, then in that case, what can happen? You can always use the function called VLOOKUP. You use VLOOKUP equal to VLOOKUP, and then VLOOKUP will take you the lookup array, and then the lookup value, first of all, equal to VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP takes the first value as the value we want to search. Then it takes from where you want to search. I want to search it from here. And then what is the position of your table, of your data? So 1, 2, 3. So third position, I say 0, 0. And I press enter, let's say. So it gives me the right value, pineapple, February, the sale was 303. The same logic may be used in case of HLOOKUP as well. So VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP are two same thing, but the difference is it's the application. Like one is applied in vertical way, another is applied in horizontal way. Let's say if your table is like this, then VLOOKUP won't work because your data is in this format, down format. So you have to do horizontal lookup, not vertical lookup. So in this case, let's say if I want to find out the sale for orange in Jan, so VLOOKUP won't work here. So you have to give HLOOKUP, and what value I want to look up? I want to look up for orange, and then in the month of Jan. So Jan is actually the second value, say Jan, comma 00, and I can press enter. The moment I press enter, I see 122. So HLOOKUP, as I told you, is absolutely similar to VLOOKUP, just it depends on the layout of the table. If the table layout is in vertical format, then you use VLOOKUP, and if the table layout is in horizontal format, then you use HLOOKUP. Now, we were talking about some functions, so date and time functions we spoke about. Apart from that, we also have some function related to string. Let's say this is a string. Let's say I've written like this. This is a brown fox, something like this. Now these strings can be converted also to different cases. We know there are 3 types of cases actually. One is lowercase, another one is uppercase, and the third one is proper case. In lowercase, all the letters are converted into lower letters. In uppercase, it's just opposite. Proper case, what happens? All the letters of the word, the first letter of the words are converted to uppercase. So let's see how to introduce these functions. You say equal to lower, and then you highlight the text which you want to be converted. You press enter and it converts. So you can see that the T in our case has been converted into small letters. Next, upper, the same, this time it will be converted to uppercase, and see the use of proper. proper, and then you select the text and press enter. So this converts all the first letters of each and every word to uppercase. So this is the difference between lowercase, uppercase and proper case. So proper is a specialized function which can be used to convert your text to proper case. So this was one of the scenarios, one of the specialized functions. Next example was related to some financial functions. So let's take an example that this is a financial scenario where I am taking up a loan, let's say, and the price of that vehicle is 80,000. Let's take an example, and my repayment would be done in 6 years, and the rate of interest would be 10%. I want to calculate the monthly installment. So for monthly installment, there is a function. We call it PMT. So payment function actually. So we use the function called PMT. The moment I open the function, it asks me for the different parameters. The first parameter being the rate of interest. Please understand one thing while working with this PMT function is that this particular rate is a yearly rate. So we have to convert this into, because we are talking about monthly installments here, so everything should be in the form of 1 month. Fine. So this years also has to be converted to month, and this yearly rate also has to be converted to month. Now there's a difference between these two. See what happens. How do you convert rate into a monthly figure? You simply say rate by 12. The moment you say rate by 12, it converts it into a monthly rate. Then it asks for the tenure, NPER you can say. So for how many months or what time you want this installment to be calculated. Now understand one thing once again here. This term is in the rate of years. So if you want to convert this into months, then you have to multiply this. Multiply this with 12. And then the third parameter is the present value or PV. The moment you highlight this, the other parameters are not required. So you can mark it as NA. So you don't require the other parameter, that is for future value. So you just want to calculate the monthly installment. So this will be the function. The moment you press enter, see what happens. It gives me the monthly installment. So you can see that this particular monthly installment has come in red color. So red color here means negative value. So this means that if you pay out 1482 rupees per month for 6 years at the rate of 10% interest, then you would be able to pay out the total expense of the vehicle. So this takes the future value also, the future value like what it will be after adding the interest. So it takes all the parameters into consideration and then calculates the monthly installment. So this is the function. This is one of the financial functions that we use. So we can take any of the values like this. Let's say I have again a home loan. Fine. This home loan is for, let's say, 40 lakhs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And seniority would be, let's say, 20 years. And rate of interest would be, let's say, 8%. So I can see that if I take a loan of 40 lakhs for 20 years with the rate of interest 8%, then I have to pay 33,457 rupees per month to complete this loan along with the interest. So this is a very useful function. So before proceeding for a loan, you can just check at home that what is your budget, what is the price of the commodity, and you can check the monthly installments, and then you can proceed for the actual loan in bank and all those things. So this is a very useful function in terms of finance dealing. There is another specialized function which uses the concept of what if analysis. So let's take an example that we have some values here, 1, 8, and 8 is a value, 6 is a value, and the multiplication of 6 and 8, we are getting it as 48. Now this is a very small example, small number. Now I want to see that keeping 8 fixed, if I want to change this number to get a number, let's say in the range of 80, then how much I should make change in this to get the value as 80. See, this is a small number. You can just say that if we write 10 here, it will be 80. But think of a bigger number. So first understand this from a smaller perspective. You go to data, and when you say what if analysis, you have an option called goal seek. The moment you say goal seek, see, goal seek is a very important specialized function in Excel, which is used to predict a value based on some given condition. So let's say I want to set my cell to a future value. So let's say I want to see this value should be 80. Now I want to change one of these cells. So instead of changing this, I want to change this. Let's say I'm sure that the first number is 8, but I'm not sure what will be the second number. So I give the second number as this one. The moment I say OK, what happens? It will show me that to get 80 out here, what should be the number here. So you say OK. See how it changes. So target value is 80, current value is 80. So it says that if you want 80 here, then here the value should be 10. So this is just an example to show you how you can check goal seek function. So goal seek function, it's a advanced function in Excel to find out a future value based on a present value. If you want to change a particular cell, and what should we do? Now actually see here one thing. You can see the answer here, but actually the answers have not changed. You still have goal seek status with you. If you say OK, then it will change. Otherwise, if you say cancel, it takes you to the previous values. So this is what, like, without changing the calculation, you can see a future value, and if you are satisfied, you can say OK. If you are not satisfied, you can say cancel and get back to the original value. So this is one of the feature of what if analysis in Excel. So what if analysis gives you the freedom to deal with a set of data and do some permutation and combinations to see what should be the exact outcome, and if that outcome matches your expectations. So this is what the outcome of what if analysis. We have already discussed what is the concept of data table in our last sessions, like how, and also how to give a range name. So let's try out with a very simple concept here. Let's say there are some commodities, let's say some fruits itself, the same example that we were taking. So let's take some examples to explain. So let's say I have taken some details of fruits, and let's say I am taking the value here as, let's say, CP, cost price, and this is selling price, and I want to find out my gain, profit, loss, whatever. So this is again the concept of financial functions, to use financial functions but in a very basic way. So let's try this. What we can do, so let's say I have got some cost price, let's say like this, and like this, like this, and I have some numbers like this, and there are some selling prices also. So let me give it a small number. Some selling prices also are there. So let's say I have let me just try out a function here, rand between function. So I'm just calculating some values here. Let me check, and then I'll just convert them into values. Say okay. Now I want to find the gain. So the function, the formula is very simple: selling price minus cost price. I want to find the profit. Now there is an option. What you can do, you can name these values as a table. How do we do that? We can just say right click, then we can define name. We can say cost price, let's say CP, and then we can say here define name, and give it a name as SP. So here what I can do, I can just say equal to H5 minus G5. If you say, it is absolutely fine, this will give me the answer. However, there is another way of writing it. You can say equal to SP minus CP. The moment you do so, see what happens. This also gives me the correct answer. So this is what the use of name. So instead of giving a value, you can always give it a name and say that okay, selling price minus cost price. Give it a name and then use it as a function. So let's see the same thing here. The selling price and cost price, we just explained this. We can use the name. Defining of names. You can apply the names also. We can also create a table of inputs which include some input values from a formula. So this is how we can do, like this: interest, number of months, loan amount. This we have already discussed. Payment terms, how to calculate. This is one way of doing it, creating a data table. So you can do data what if analysis and use data table option, column input and row input. So you can select the range, column input and row input, and then you can get this particular data table. So these are some of the features, advanced features of Excel. So now let's see, we have already discussed this goal seek, how it works. So goal seek and scenario are two again advanced features of Excel. Let's see how this scenario works. So let's take an example that you have a table which has got some sales figures, okay, and you would like to prepare a scenario where the data will change and you want to see the effect of that change in other cells. So for that, what you need to do, after you select the data, the cell, you go to data tab and then select what if analysis, and inside that we will see something called scenario manager. So when you go to scenario manager, you are provided with this kind of dialog box. Then you add a scenario. So you just say add, click on the add button and a scenario is added. Now you can give a name to this scenario. You take, you give any name you want for this scenario, and you need to mention what are the changing cells you want to take. So change cell is the cell that we have already highlighted, that first cell, and then you say OK, and then you need to provide the cells that you want, the value that you want, actually set the values. So it is almost like the solver function we have seen, but this is a sophisticated function, scenario manager, which can be used for this scenario of profit and sales, financial figures and all. So we can see, we can change the value and the target value, and then the scenario is added. Now the moment you say show, the scenario is created, and whenever you want to switch to that scenario, you can just highlight the scenario and say show. The moment you do so, what happens? You will be given the details of that scenario, how it looks like, what will happen if you change the values. So you can try this particular feature with the data and then create a name of the changing cell, and you can always edit the scenario whenever you want. To remove a scenario, you say delete scenario. So you select a particular scenario and say delete, and this is the goal seek option which we have just seen. If you want to change some numbers, so goal seek and scenario manager are similar, but scenario manager is an advanced feature. You can use that for financial calculations also. So here again it says that the cells are there. You are not sure about this cell, you are sure about a number, and you want to see if I change, if I want to get a future value, then what should be the number here. So in that case, you can always invoke the goal seek. So you can always go to data tools, what if analysis, and goal seek, and it gives you the option which cell you want to see by changing which cell, and then you can see the exact value that you want, that you can check. So it gives you the answer. Only when you say OK, it will take you to the spreadsheet with the same value. Otherwise, just as we saw in our last example, that if you say cancel, it will get back to the old values. Similar to goal-seek and scenario manager, we have another advanced feature in Excel, which is known as solver. Now for solver, you have to take a further step. See, if you want to invoke server or if you want to use solver, then in that case what you have to do, you have to take help of an add-in. We will explain that right away. But understand first that solver is actually a trial and error method through which you can get a future value. The purpose of solver and goal-seek are almost similar, but you can say that your solver is more intelligent than goal-seek. This is how you can explain goal-seek and solver. So before we proceed, let's say this is an example. So before we proceed with a similar slide, let's see how do we get the add-in for solver. So let's say our screen is open, Excel sheet is open. Now what we can do, let's see how do we get the solver add-in. I told you that solver is an add-in which has to be included within your Excel so that you can use it, and solver is actually a trial and error thing. So what we can do, we can go to file, and then we see here options. We go to options. The moment we click on options, what happens? We get to see this options here, Excel options. And in Excel options, you will find an option called add-ins. The moment you click on add-ins, you are given all the add-ins that are listed here. What you need to do, you need to go to, you select manage Excel add-ins and say go. The moment you say go, it gives you a list, and then you select your solver add-in and then click on OK. So this add-in is now added. You can use this. So solver is another add-in which we have already added here. See, the moment you open solver, it looks like this. You can set an objective. The purpose of solver is once again the same. You take some values and you want to see what do you want at the end. You want to check what you want at the end, set the objective, and you want to set max or min or value. You can change that also, and by changing the cell, means which target cell you want to change to get the same value. So that also you can do, and you can give some constants here. So we'll see this with an example of some data. Okay, so let's close and then go back to the slide and see what examples we have taken here. So let's take an example that we have. So we have a data related to student grades. Let's take an example here. So student names are here, then test names are here listed, assignment marks, and then final grade. Final grade is nothing but the you can say the average of test 1, test 2 and assignment, the average that you take So that becomes your final grade, let's say. Now let's take an example that this student Susan has missed the first test. So the first test marks is 0. Now she wants to get through this class this semester. For that she has to score 70%. Okay, so for this, how do we guarantee that Susan gets 70%? So how much she needs to achieve in her assignment, or let's say in other tests, so that she gets 70 here. So see, what we can do some hit and trial methods. We can see that if it is 70 and if it is 80, so it becomes 70, something like this. We can do it manually also, but the same thing can be achieved using the solver add-in. Let's see how it works. So let's say this is your data. So test 1, test 2, assignment and final grade is there. These all are calculated. However, Susan has missed the first assignment, but she still wants to qualify for the next semester. For that she needs 70% over here. Now we want to check if this is 0, and what should be these numbers to get 70 out here. Let's see. We have already explained this, how to get the solver add-in. So go to add-ins and take that solver. So solver is here, and then you get the solver icon in analysis tab, which we have just seen how to get the solver. So this kind of screen comes. Now the first thing that you have to do is to set the objective. Set the objective for your value. The data was there. So you can see E10. E10 is actually the cell where we want the new number to be. Okay. So we want to change the number. The value of E10 should be 70. That is what our objective is. And then what we want, we have one value as 0. So the rest of the values should be modified to see this number as 70. So for that, what we do, the objective of E10. E10 is the final grade of Susan. Now we want to change it to 70. And then by changing the variables, which variables you want to change? I want to change the values of test 2 and assignment, because test 1 she has already missed. So we cannot change the value of the first cell. So the only two values left are test 2 and assignment figures. And then what you do, you select the variables and then you say solve. The moment you do so, it gives you this particular screen which asks that whether you want to restore the original values after you have seen the new values. So you say yes, I want to restore. So what happens? It gives a solution. So Susan to get 70%, she has to score 82 in test 2 and 90 in assignment. Okay, so this is how the solver works. So let's see this in Excel. See it. Let's say any name you take. Let's say we take the name of Susan itself, the same thing. We need not make the full table, we just want to check the name. And this was, let's say, the test for English. This was the tests for, sorry, let's take this as English. 3 subjects, let's say, maths, science, total is coming here, and let's say grade. So no need to put the total, you can just put the grade out here also. So let's say there is Jack who appeared for this test and he scored 80, and then he scored 73 in maths and 78 in science, let's say, and the overall average grade was, how do you calculate? You can say average and then these three numbers and close it. So this becomes the average, means the final grade what we wanted. So 77, to get 70, Jack got 77 as a grade. Now let's try the solver for Susan. Let's see, how do we do that? Let's say we were talking about Susan. Now Susan has missed this English class or English test, and Susan still wants to get 70% marks here. So she did not appear for the first English test, but she wanted to get 70 marks here. So let's say I put some values here, let's say 67. I see that the grade is still low. So Susan's targets was, let's say I'm not good at maths, I'm not so good at science also, I was very good at English, but anyhow I missed my English class. Now what is the solution? I still want to pass this semester and get 70% marks. So in that case, Susan takes help of solver and decides that how much marks she should get in maths and science to pass this semester, and she will do all hard work to get the same score. So for that, Excel will help her. How Excel will help her? What you have to do? We have to take help of the solver. The moment you open solver and you say objective. So my objective is here. I want to change this grade to 70%. And I am not talking about max or min. I am talking about a value. The value is 70. Now by changing cell, you say that, okay, which cells you want to change? I say that I want to change this cell and this cell, this cell as well as this cell. So these two cells I want to change. I want to do some hard work in maths and do some hard work in science so as to achieve 70%. I could not appear for the English test. So having said that, you just select the objective with cell and then you select the value what you want to achieve, and then you want to see the changes in the cells, and then you just say solve. Please solve. Now you see that solver has already got the values, but there is a problem. The problem is that to get 70% marks, Susan has to get 94 in maths and 116 in science, which is not possible because the total marks is only out of 100. So this means that even if it is, if you say that, okay, restore original values and say, okay, so it is restore the original values. So this is a hit and trial method. So we see that even though if let's say if she gets 100 and 100 also, and if this is 0, then also she can get value of 66%. So under no circumstances Susan can get 70% marks or 70% grade if she has not appeared for English. Now take the scenario, just change, let's change the scenario. The scenario is that Susan appeared for English, but she could only score 30 marks. The pass marks was 50, but she could not get that. And our passing grade, overall grade for passing this semester is 60. So if you say equal to, if I want to see whether Jack has passed and Susan should, how Susan should pass. So you say equal to if this is greater than this, then pass, else fail. You click here, you do here, and you see that the two results have come. Now let's rerun the solver. This time my passing marks is, pass score is 60, and Susan has already got 30 in English. She has already got that. She is yet to sit for the maths and science, but she thinks that she is not very good in maths and she is also not very good in science, so she will get 40 in maths and science, 50 in science, but 40 in maths and science is not getting her the pass marks. She is still having a grade as, or the result as fail. Now solver can help here. The passing marks is 60. Anyhow, she has to pass. Okay. So equal to 60, equal to like this. Now what you do, you select. So this means that Susan has to work hard for maths and science because English is already done. We cannot change English. She has already appeared for the English exam, but her maths and science are still left and she wants to pass. So for that, what you will do, you will click on the target, the objective, and then go to data, solver, and then set the objective. So last time we also selected this thing, that's why Excel has automatically picked it up, the value as 70 and the changing cells as this. So the moment I say solve, see what happens. For Susan to pass, see what she has to do. She has to gather for 70%, okay. Okay. So Susan to pass and get 60%, she can get it right away. She can get these values. So she has to score 70 in maths and 80 in science so that she gets a passing marks throughout the semester, because English is already done as 30. So this is what the use of solver is. If you want to keep the solution, you keep it. If you want to restore the solution or restore the original values, you can just say restore. So this was an example of solver, how you can use solver for your calculations. Let's continue. So this is what the same example has been taken. So we have also taken a similar example. So solver, you can see that each time it tracks whatever settings you have used and it keeps it. So that is one advantage of solver. We saw that last time whatever objective and whatever target cells we put, that were kept intact, and we could see the values over there. So these are the parameters. We have already discussed this, what Susan has to do to gather 70% marks. And after you have got the marks, if you want to keep the values, you can do that. If you want to revert back to the original values, you can do that as well. So if you want to, if a particular solver you have got some parameters and if you have got some values, and if you want to save that, you can save it using load or save button, and you can save it as a model like this. You can give it a name. So one model has been saved. So these are the different options. So if you want to go to the previous option, so you can go there. So if you want to retrieve the model, you can click on this load and save model. You can click on the model which you want to load and then say load. It will open. If you want to replace, it can so happen. If you want to merge, to restore, that can also happen. So these are the standard options. So actually what we discussed, that solver is actually for hit and trial approach. So the option varies also. These are some of the options of solver. You can get this particular dialog box with all the methods, and after doing all the calculations, if you are done, then it's always better to reset the solver. So it will reset all the values, variables and everything, and you can go back and you can see, you can check the values, the time, how much time did it took for the iterations. You can track that.